No. All right. I would like to welcome everyone to the May regular meeting of the Harmony CDD. The first order of business this evening. Well, before we start the first order, everyone can check their cell phones and make sure they're on mute, because that does cause some difficulty as the meeting moves forward. Thank you all very much.
We've lost Tim. But...
No, it's back on.
Okay.
Okay. So the first order of business is a roll call. Supervisor Berube.
Here.
Supervisor Castle.
Present.
Supervisor Lee.
Here.
Supervisor Kramer is here. And Supervisor Scarborough has he joined us on Zoom? Okay, so he will be marked absent for this meeting. As we start the meeting, the second order of business is our audience comments. This is a time where anybody in the audience can provide any sort of input to the board. It does not have to be related to an item on the agenda. You'll have 3 minutes to present your thoughts, ideas, and opinions. And it's not a time for back and forth with the board or a particular board member. It's a time for you to present us with your input. So is there anyone here in the audience that would like to participate in audience comments? Okay, how about on Zoom, Dan? Anyone?
Nobody's doing that.
All right, seeing none, we'll close audience comments and move on to our new business. The first item on our new business agenda is a consideration of landscape services request for proposals. We have put out a request for proposal and received 3 qualified bids. The first is with the Yellowstone Company. Second, we have Juniper Landscaping, and the third is Cervello. Are all the vendors from those 3 companies here with us today?
Present.
I see Cervello and Juniper. Do we have Yellowstone? Aha, back there. Thank you very much. So at this time, I would open it up for the board. I presume there would be questions that board members have of the landscape vendors. And so at this time, we can ask them questions and they can provide us with additional information. Might need to be clarified. Does any of our board members have any questions?
I have a question for each of them. I know Cervello has looked, but whoever is here from Juniper, did you physically look at the entire property?
Yes.
Look at the scope of services to be provided, measurements, number of trees, yards of mulch, how many pine bales of pine straw and all that. So you're confident that your measurements and numbers are accurate based on what you've seen and what you've provided in the request for proposal?
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Same question for Yellowstone. You've seen the entire property.
Yes, sir.
You're solid in your assessment.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have to ask Cervello that question because you guys are here all the time. You know what the numbers are. The reason I ask that is because there's a wide variety of price and things with this quantity. So that's the real reason I asked. Okay. Can I go again?
I was going to actually go
Okay.
around
Go ahead.
instead of having one person ask
Sure.
all the questions. So Carol, do you have anything?
You almost caught Dan off guard.
I do not at this time.
Okay. Dan,
Not at this time. Stephen, take it.
My second question goes back to the irrigation management portion of the contract. As you know, we have a early version of MaxiCom without all the bells and whistles. I presume that's been explained to you. It's like MaxiCom version
1.0.
1.0, yeah. In and of itself, that's probably not too problematic, but you know, we don't have flow meters, we don't have hydrometers, any of that stuff, so it's a basic Maxicom. 2 weather stations, one of which works, I think. Whoever's speaking for Juniper, give me your understanding of what the irrigation management portion of the contract means to you. What are you going to do? I think you bid $120,000 for irrigation management. Give me a quick overview of what's included in $120,000.
It is obviously a full-time technician. You guys included in your scope of work, all valve out repairs, and I think 2 inches and under on lines.
Okay.
And then, so basically, you're everything after your water source. So wherever your meters are, I can't control whether you have reclaimed water. I think it's mainly reclaimed. I can't control what the city or the government or the county is sending in. Everything after that, we have full ownership of it. You know, if we were selected, we would do an audit prior, within the first 2-3 weeks to make sure the system's adequate functioning. Once we feel that everything is, we'll provide a report, just to keep everything clean before we have too much equipment and boots on the ground. But yeah, I mean, it's basically, we'll manage, the scheduling, the run times, and the actual physical components of your irrigation system.
Who's going to punch the buttons on the Maxicom, which is in the field services trailer?
We have our irrigation manager, Omar, and we have a regional irrigation manager, Jason Nelson, who's Maxicom certified. So between the 2 of them, they will be our irrigation gurus.
Okay.
Now, you just made the statement that you were coming in and doing everything from where the Toho, who's our water provider, provides on through. So when we have a mainline break, is that included in your
Yes,
cost?
yeah, we just can't control, where the
Right.
water comes.
I understand
Whatever
that.
jurisdiction
Right.
sends the water in, I can't control what they do.
Okay,
Once the water's here and comes through the system, we have, that's our job to maintain your irrigation system.
okay. So that includes all the repairs that would be needed within our system?
There are certain specs in the RFP. It would be heads and lateral lines. I
Okay.
think valves and main lines would still be,
An
an extra
additional?
work proposal.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that,
Here's the big catch. We keep talking about Maxicom. There's a number of clocks and timers scattered around the property. I'm going to bet that that's not included in the $120,000. Those are over and above, right?
no,
If a clock goes out, you're going to replace the clock?
No, we're
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I mean, right.
we're gonna
Yeah.
manage it, but
We'll manage it, we'll do monthly reports, we'll map it out. That's part of our standard startup procedure is we'll provide a map, zone counts,
Sure.
color coded map, so y'all can have it for eternity if you don't have one already.
The reason why I asked is obvious, because that's where the big money is.
Yep.
Clocks and timers. Okay, thank
Well,
you.
there's supply issues now, so.
Yeah. Same question for you, Mr. Yellowstone.
Yeah, so obviously, again, we have included minor irrigation repairs 2 inches now. We supplied 2 irrigation techs full time. In addition to that, we have reached out to Walker Technical Services, who would do our irrigation monitoring from the computer as well. Obviously, they have a team of people that can always be on it and monitor it. Yes, we have a Maxicom certified operator, that's our branch manager and our irrigation manager, but to have somebody that's always able to be there monitoring it for us, we thought it'd be a better idea to get with Walker's. I don't know if you all are familiar
Yes,
with them. They've done I know Mike Walker has done quite a bit of work out here at the beginning and is familiar with the irrigation system out here. So again, we have asked him to, if we were to be awarded this contract, to partner with us and do the monitoring part of it from the computer aspect of it, while we have our 2 full-time irrigation techs on site full-time.
Okay. Thank you.
all right.
And just
go
a
ahead.
follow-up question on that. And by the way, apologies if I miss a couple of things. I'm trying to take notes so the residents can, because I do every month, so the residents can read what happens at the meeting, and sometimes I'm typing them. Okay. Apologies if I've missed anything for now and later. The cost for landscaping is for labor only. It does not include the cost for parts, is it? Or is there the cost for,
Minor irrigation repairs, parts and labor were included.
So basically, you'll never pay for a
Yes,
sprinkler
for
head,
Two
a
inches.
nozzle,
2 inches and out, yep,
a lateral line break, you know, it's included in our
price.
monthly amortized.
Okay. And yeah, I'd like to put the previous question too, also to Cervello about their irrigation maintenance. Will you have a full-time tech or two full-time techs on
As the
site?
contract reads now, yes, and we also have reached out to Light Walker, the Maxicom system. I know one of the challenges that we have had since taking over the irrigation system, quite a few of your clocks are not even hooked onto the Maxicom. So I can take and tell you, I put it on Maxicom, but it's, you know, wires are broken and everything else throughout multiple repairs throughout the years. Some due to tree roots in certain areas and stuff like that. We also know, we also have a map and we'll identify the areas that were completely shut down
Mhm.
from the Mexican system. And we've got with red on that where those areas are now going to be up and operating and stuff. So unfortunately, you're not walking into a property where the irrigation was all full. Maybe at one time it was fully through the Maxicon system, but right now.
Some wires have been cut
Exactly.
and some new neighborhoods have come on that were not connected for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
But like at the current time, you don't have a full-time tech here, right?
Now, the way the contract reads right now.
Right.
I think you're every other month or something like that. But yes, as the new contract, we would.
You would have a full-time tech. I just wanted to clarify that. I want to shift gears a little from irrigation unless anybody has other questions about irrigation. I want to ask about tree trimming. There's tree trimming that's included in the contract. Definitely throughout our entire property, we have an enormous amount of trees, as I'm sure you all noticed as you come through. And the trees at this point in time, the trees in all the common areas, other than the right of ways, are included in the scope. What about trees that are then trimmed that are in the right of ways and frequently reach out over the sidewalks and into the yards of our residents and sometimes brush against their homes? When you come in to do tree trimming in those locations, will you be able to, do you have the equipment and able to do that tree trimming if that's an extra thing that we ask you to do? Yes.
Yes, we have two arbor folks on staff,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
they're dedicated to that.
So when tree trimming would happen here, would the certified arborist be on site with them while the tree trimming's happening, or would you just?
Typically, they'd be in the planning stage. If they needed to be on site, they would be, depending on the complexity of the operation, but if it's a standard prune, I don't see that to be necessary. If there's an extenuating circumstance, maybe a safety issue,
Okay.
require their presence, but typically in the planning stages, they'd be involved in an
Mhm.
operation like that.
And you all have the equipment to
Yes.
get in there and carefully remove the branches from the homes if they are
Yes, ma'am, we
conflicted.
do.
To be specific, to be trimming branches which are over private property.
Yeah, that's what I,
Right, and the right of way portion is what you're
No.
specifically
The
speaking. to,
trees
correct?
are in the right of way portion, but some of those branches will extend over private property. There's always been a question about trimming over private property, and that's the specific question, I think. Do you have a problem with trimming trees that are over private property?
No, I don't foresee an issue with that unless there's some issue with the homeowner or that would
Or a
conflict
pool
or
or a
something
screener
like
line.
that, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Every
Every
tree's gonna be
situation,
different, but you know, if it's
As long
a
as-
typical
yeah.
backyard with
Yeah.
a grass area or line, there's, you know. we can-
yeah, no, these are strictly in the front,
Right.
none of them
Front of homes,
Correct, that's
front
my
of homes.
understanding.
okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And Yellowstone, I'm sorry, I don't want to leave you out.
So yes, we have certified arborists on staff. We do not in-house trim any trees that we can't reach the pole saw. We
Okay.
do subcontract those.
So
out.
you would have to sub, but you all do, Juniper does have it in-house and you
Yeah.
would sub.
Yes, ma'am. And yes, they're qualified, they will do it, no issues with doing it over residence, again, like you said, obviously, if there's cars in the way or stuff that needs to be
Right.
moved, we will.
Okay, great, thank you. Certainly.
For Juniper, the annual cost for mulch is. Why that cost is so much higher than the other bidders?
It's a great question. So what we typically like to do is have a maintained 2 to 3 inches of mulch site-wide. So I would recognize to maintain that across the portion of the year. Typically, you do a mulching in the spring and then a top dress in the fall. Obviously, site-specific, you have runoff areas, you have, plant healthcare issues, maybe call for less mulch, that sort of thing. But that's what that is derived from, is to maintain 2 to 3 inches year round. That way you don't come into a situation where you have very little mulch, perhaps in some portions of the property, and so we want to keep it mulched, if you will.
And it's supply chain issues as well, prices are unfortunately on the high piece of
Yeah, no, the only question I'm asking is, it's a comparative question, right? So everybody is expensive, but Juniper was way higher.
We also recognize the quantity of mulch that currently exists in the property and to bring it to that 2 to 3 inch maintained amount.
Mhm. Dan, do you have any questions?
Sure. For all three, how would you describe the state of the shrubs that we have and how it relates to what we've bid for shrub maintenance? So, Juniper.
Could you expand on your question a little bit?
Yeah,
More
so
detail?
with the numbers that we have for shrub, I mean, there's a bit of spread there. Is that strictly, have you built in some replacement of what's already here into that? What is, I want a little more information on what went into your shrub.
Sure. So if I recall correctly, it's a full prune 12 times a year, so once a month. So obviously approaching the project from a quadrant perspective each week, if you will. So it includes maintenance and pruning of all the plant material that require to be trimmed and pruned, but it does not include any replacement of that plant material.
Also, the healthcare, the shrubs, fertilization, fungicide, pesticide, insecticide, so.
Yellowstone?
Yeah, so again, with it being once a month, basically what's included in our number is the labor. We have basically allotted for 2 full-time guys just to be going throughout the property, the full-time detailing. Obviously for fertilization, chemical costs are included in there as well. So that's how we come up with that.
Obviously, we know what it takes to do this job. We've been here for 5 years, and you have a lot of bed space out there that's just completely empty. Greg actually walked the entire property, measured the property. We're kind of old school, and that's pretty much what he does. So you have a lot of plant material that doesn't need trimming, not even once a month out here. I think sometimes in our industry, and I'm just speaking for Cervello, sometimes your crews get tunnel vision and they want to trim a shrub. And every single week, what they're doing is more harm than good to the shrubs itself. So you've got a lot of shrub materials that can go a month to a month and a half without even being trimmed. Some can go once a month out here, and then you do have plant replacements needed throughout the property. You have overgrowth material out here, and shrubs like people, they have life expectancy. So you just don't have a great significant amount of shrubs out there.
A lot of the beds vary in how dense they are versus how sparse they are. And like, in this particular case, I didn't use any software. That never gives you the true story because it's standing next to something. So it took 7 days, but I measured every inch.
Saw you go by many times.
Going back to the monthly question, is a month cycle to trim all the shrubs? Is that too often? Is that what I'm hearing? Or you're shaking your head no? Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's standard practices. Obviously, I will say we have some contracts that do 8 times a year, some do it 12 times a year. We have contracts that do 17 times per year. But I'd say 12 is your normal standard. Obviously, we do go through as well, and it's not just if it doesn't meet it, we're not gonna trim
Mhm.
it. I mean, you do go through and do it, but for the most part, yes, 12 times a year is standard industry practices.
Right, and we do have some
So
shrubs.
you've got fire bush, you've got shrubs that want
exactly.
to flower, it doesn't make sense to, so typically in that scenario, we'll do a harder cutback, a rejuvenation prune.
Mhm.
Let it flush out, let it sit for a little while, flower, prune it hard again, so. It's, end of the day, it's just how the labor gets kind of moved around and.
Sure.
Based on the plant type also.
And they're correct, that, you base it on, once a month, but typically, most shrubs, shrub that you have out here, you don't need it once a month.
I wanted to ask about your detail teams for our landscape beds and weeding. And I'd seen some discussion of spraying and others discussing hand weeding also. So for each of you, I'll start with Yellowstone first. When you have weeds in our planter beds, what's your crew gonna do?
Use a combination of spraying and hand pulling throughout it.
Can you speak up a little bit on that?
Sorry.
Not sure it's catching you.
Yes, we, obviously, we're not gonna hand pull every single weed throughout the property. There is gonna be some spraying involved there. And again, part of our thing was to have 2 full-time guys go through the property. And also we have a landscape superintendent that would be on site full-time as well. He would supplement the detail guys with some of the spraying throughout the property. So yes, it is a combination of both.
Okay. Juniper?
Sure, so project approach would be the 25% of the project that's being trimmed, detailed, if you will, would include the bed weeding in that portion of the project each week. And then the other 75% of the project would have 2 folks that combination of mechanical, a scuffle hoe, if you will, hand pulling, chemical application would complete the remainder of the project to thus accommodate 100% of the site each week.
Okay. So between the 25 and the 75, is that the main areas with up close contact by
Yeah,
the
good
residents
question.
would
Yeah, good
be
question.
those
So,
hand weed?
Obviously you start the week, you need to start with the main entrance, the clubhouse, the park areas, the high impact areas, and then go from there. And that's the cycle that they would follow. And then of course, touch it before the end of the week as well.
Okay.
Obviously, there's more than one person on the team more broadly that's seeing all these areas each day. So if there's attention that needs to be paid, then it's warranted. So of course.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if you just spray, then we have if the weeds have gotten high, then we have a lot of excess plant material just lying about and looking.
Weekly weeding should not let them get.
Should keep that.
Yes,
Correct.
ma'am.
With the 52 frequencies that were requested in the scope of work, it shouldn't get out of control.
Right.
I agree.
And Cervello, as far as the weeding of the beds.
So same process. I mean, you will have certain times of the year, Mike and Stephen tell you that, every bed is gonna be weed free. You will have certain times of the year, especially in the rainy season, that you will see. that, But, again, hand pulling anything over 3 inches, spraying everything else, the weeds, what we try to do is pull vines out of the shrubs instead of spraying vines. Typically that affects the shrub and then you got a dead vine. through the
Right.
shrub material there, so we try to do a lot of hand pulling of that as well. What we increased in the contract with Colin. Additional manpower that's needed for the property.
That was gonna be my next question. How many people are on site on a daily basis?
I haven't looked at the final numbers of it, but I know that it's gonna increase from, I think we went from 6 in the beginning, then we took out some of the scope of services and reduced it down to 5. So I think the current scope, I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's has increased.
Jennifer?
I would say in the summer, it's probably 9 to 10 folks, full force maintenance, if you will, as a combination of mowing, the trimming, and chemical application, weed control, hand pulling weeds, that sort of thing.
Yellowstone?
Yeah, I think we have in our proposal provided an organizational chart with numbers on there. Basically, we had accommodated 6 guys on the mowing full time. 2 guys on the detail crew, 8, and we have 1 landscape superintendent, which is supplemental to, wherever needed, that's here full-time, 2 irrigation techs and a part-time site, so 9 guys doing the daily maintenance every day, and then your 2 irrigation techs that are here as well.
Any other questions? I've run my gambit. Okay. If there are no other questions, then we will bring the discussion. Thank you all very much. Is there anything, just go around briefly, is there anything you'd like to add? Start with Yellowstone.
Again, we appreciate the opportunity to provide you a proposal. We did spend a lot of time out here. We had somebody come out here and measure it, boots on the ground nonstop for, a week. So we did do our due diligence out here. We're comfortable and, the numbers that we put on everything. We're comfortable with the amount of labor we put on it. Again, I think that everyone knows that prices have gone up with a little bit of everything. And so I would just like to say that we are comfortable with everything that we've done.
Okay. Thank you. Sir Bello, do you want to add anything?
Thanks again for considering. Not a perfect 5 years. There have been some ups and downs. Again, we're not a perfect landscape company. Just thank you for the opportunity again. We took into consideration that we know the property, what it takes to make the property. We've also increased based on the high inflation right now. At the same time, we were profitable out here before. So, and we, high inflation just not hits development, it hits the residents at Harmony as well. Many folks out there working 2 jobs and don't even have jobs still.
Mhm.
So we took all that into consideration. I mean, again, still profitable community for us. And we're lucky.
We're comfortable with what we had, and that's why if you notice in year 2, there was no increase in year 2.
Yes, thank you. Juniper?
Yeah, I just echo my peers. I appreciate the opportunity, and personally being involved with this process has been great. I've enjoyed it, and I think that just thinking about our culture of customer service, that's what resonates with me. And I would personally be involved with the project as branch manager, and so I look forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I just want to add too, I'm a lifelong St. Cloud resident. My kids go to Harmony and middle school. So this one kind of special to me just because it's part of my hometown. And, watching where it was. Like I said,
Yes.
I'm 40 years old, so I watched St. Cloud change dramatically. So anyway, long story short, this one's kind of special, and I'm right down the road if anything happens. So.
Okay, wonderful.
Wanted to throw that in there just because I don't get to bid any local. St. Cloud's not known for their, big.
Can I throw something in there too, right?
I'm not known for their big community. We got this in Twin Lakes, so.
I want to throw something in too.
All right.
I'm gonna be honest, both of these companies are great companies. I have a really close friend, Brian Weatherby, that I worked for years at Girard Environmental Services with Yellowstone. Kenny Odell, I actually started out in the landscape industry right after college with his father, Larry Odell, which was a huge mentor of mine. And same thing with Derek Bueller, we knew each other. Derek actually worked for Savello back in the day before I was there. So, we all fish out of the same pond, but we understand that there's enough fish for everybody.
That's right. There's a lot of work out there. So I very much appreciate each of you coming out and helping us to further understand our landscape issues. And so we will bring it back to the board. You're more than welcome to stay if you'd like. If you have somewhere else to be, we won't hold you to sitting here through all of our discussions, but you're welcome to stay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll pull it back to the board. Thoughts, ideas, recommendations, motions? It's a tough decision. I mean, it's
If you
3
want us to
years.
leave, we can just.
We've had
You
this
wanted
out,
to
it's all
say-
public anyway.
Okay.
I know, but it's the immediate impact. Minutes
Okay.
on minutes on a piece of paper. We don't-
Yeah.
there's no-
Our district manager is saying that sometimes it's easier for the board if you step out. Again, we can't force you to step out, but it might be easier for our discussion if you do.
We'll take that as it is.
Thank you so much, folks.
Do appreciate it. Thank you.
He
He
can
wants
stay.
to hang out if it makes it, we can prepare.
We're gonna go.
What, do you want them, they wait outside? Okay. Too bad we don't have a little bar. Get out of here.
There is one right down the road.
All right, board members. Dorcia.
So again, as I said, on the one hand, they're working with Survelo for a number of years. It's not just in the last few months they've been doing their job, it's been a while, they've been more responsive lately, and it's we haven't chosen elsewhere. But then, as David said, there's no guarantee that bringing on a more expensive bidder is going to result in better quality work. Now, it sounds like Survelo is upping their landscape professional crew numbers to be pretty much on par with the other two bidders. I'm, on the one hand, I would like to throw the bids out and start again. And on the other hand, if we're not going to get any better quality for more money, why would we spend more? But we don't know that. It's a gamble.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, like I said, up and downs with Cervello. Like, I mean, at one point they were trying to walk out of the contract from their end.
Right.
It's not just, the quality of service issues. I would defer, looking at the bids. I feel it's good. Or I'm sorry, I have a good feeling with Cervello just based on, they know the ground truth. They're already here. They have a good sense of what staffing levels are needed for, the amount of work that we're asking to get done. And yeah, they're the least expensive by far. I'm just, it's been said in the past. I mean, any company we go with could potentially have issues, not just staffing. There's years go on, contracts.
Right.
We've had issues with previous landscaping companies here. So I'm leaning towards staying with Cervello at this point.
I never thought I'd say it, but these are tough times. Really difficult times. The budget is a huge issue. And I'm aiming towards staying with Cervello as well. And I'm also going to go further and say to take out the right-of-way cutting. Just make everybody on equal footing throughout Harmony. And, there'll be some backlash about that, but I
So
mean,
let's just explain for residents, for anybody who's here and listening, what he's meaning by right of way cutting is that currently along the boulevards, the wider streets, Cap Runner, 5 Oaks, Schoolhouse, the landscaping contract has always included mowing between the sidewalk and curb. And the reason for that is because the developer wanted to make sure that the streets where everybody was traveling down, that they were going to sell houses to, had a uniform, well-cared for appearance. And it has continued to this day, and now we're looking at the possibility of removing that benefit from those homeowners and requiring them to mow between their sidewalk and the curb on their properties.
Right. So if you look at the screen, this is the, property appraiser shows all the property boundaries and everything. The CDD owns and irrigates and currently landscapes all of that land on the older neighborhoods. If you go, for example, to my neighborhood, that was one of the later plats. It didn't have the rear loading houses. Just doing all of that curb to street landscaping has always been on the homeowners in that case.
Yeah, and also on all of the interior streets,
Yes.
Cupsey, Bear Grass,
Right.
the Rose Willow,
Right.
for
So
the older neighborhoods too.
yes, and
So
so
it's
what we
kind of an
had.
equity issue too.
Right, and so we had the turf maintenance portion of the bids basically take into account if we backed off of the CDD maintaining those areas, we would still be irrigating those areas. I mean, we're not gonna dig out the pipes, that's already there, that's going to stay. But we did look at having the companies consider that. One of them, Juniper, came drastically down on their number. The other two, less so, but as we've been discussing, Cervelo was overall, even taking that into consideration, the most economical by far.
Right.
Of the three bids, that right of way cutting varies somewhere between $16,000 a year for Cervelo to 100,
75,
say it again,
75.
17,500 to about $120,000 from Juniper, which was way out of whack. That's why I asked them about, did they look at everything? Because the numbers on all these, but anyway, where I'm going is, we need to cut money out of this budget. And if we're gonna stay with Cervelo for budgetary reasons, let's go all the way and take out as much money as we can, because it's gonna affect a small number of people, and many of those people are cutting that area anyway.
Right, and I don't think it's going to increase the cost
Their
of what they're
landscapers
spending
are probably gonna charge them very little.
or nothing.
Yeah.
This is very difficult because again, they're all over the ballpark. I am leaning towards, because our service from Cervelo has, we've just seen areas of turf, be it Bahia or St. Augustine, under their control, turn just to huge weed beds. And I think I understand the need to keep costs down, but I, at this point, would really like to reject all the bids and try again.
May I ask you a question?
Right, typically we don't
Well,
do,
I like to-
okay,
So with regard to negotiating your terms with each of these vendors, whether you have the current agreements, proposals, or future proposals, have you considered what's called an SLA or a QoS agreement? Which basically stipulates that if they fail to deliver a certain aspect, that you basically deduct whatever their fee structure is.
yes,
Is that what's baked
in fact, as we negotiate the contract from our legal and through our district manager, we need to definitely put that in, particularly if we're going. with
Especially if
Cervelo.
they're not delivering
Yes.
or they fail to meet certain benchmarks,
That's
you
correct.
just carve out. a
Yeah,
certain
and
limit.
it's set forth in the contract, and so, yes,
Very well.
Open it up to everyone now.
yes.
Yeah.
That's-
So, yeah, open it up to all of the.
Yeah, if you let one-
Well, if anybody wants to,
Right.
One question you didn't ask was, are they having trouble getting employees?
okay, ooh, we kind of covered that before,
Oh,
they all
okay.
are,
Okay.
they all admit that they are.
It seems safe to infer that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at this point,
Question. If you take out what you're talking about, that part in red, how much would that bring down each bid?
Cervelo's
The
takes 17,500.
17.5 for Cervelo, 120,000, 125 for Juniper, and 20.
Yellowstone was
summary-
about 16,000.
Yeah, the summary is up on the website under, there's a landscape summary under today's meeting.
Okay. They all have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Deborah, it's the first two columns on we're second two columns on the top
Cervelo and-
row.
What was it, the first two on the top row?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're the second two, after vendor, turf maintenance and turf maintenance, non-ROW.
so Yellowstone and Cervelo, it's
Negligible.
$17,000. For Juniper, it's like 125,000.
But the total 5-year pricing.
It starts adding up.
The 5-year pricing still for Cervelo is 2.48 million versus 3.78. It's at bottom, it's the last column on the right.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
still, even with that difference, it's still a major
Yeah.
increase above Cervelo.
Like 50%.
So the question, I guess for the board is, do we take the low bidder?
So here's my suggestion. If we refuse all bids and we will do another RFP, hopefully all these bidders will bid again.
They will not, I wouldn't if I was you. I'm sorry, that's what I was thinking. I would not rebid again. So if you didn't take my first offer, I say goodbye. There's too many other places that may beat me. I think you're running a myself.
And that's why
I think you're running
I
a risk.
expressed.
I think the
the
board
concern.
comes off as wishy-washy when you keep going back, going back, going back. That's just my opinion.
In our line of business, if that happens, we don't resubmit, because obviously they're looking for somebody else who didn't submit the first time.
That's exactly what I would think. I mean, these are tough decisions. You gotta make a
Now,
decision and move on.
now, if we frame it as if we throw them out and redo the RFP, but for a shorter term, like a single
Right.
year or 3 year,
Or 2 year, yeah.
looking to, from where you sit as, in the industry, do you have that same feeling of, oh, they don't want my bid, I don't want their business versus, oh, they have a legitimate.
So they understand budgetary reasons. David's 100% right. You could risk the chance of them going, but framing it that way and telling them that, you want to reject all bids because again, they know what your budget number is. That's the first thing they looked at bidding this to try and keep it somewhat within there. Most vendors do. But, you're looking to fit within your budget and I mean, again, it's a risk anyway you look at it.
I think that we haven't offered them a contract. We've given them the RFPs, they've responded. Our concerns are performance going forward, and to the gentleman's point over here, Tim can write a contract that has performance-based standards. And it's not up to us, it's gonna be up to Infomark, our contractor, who's managing this contract, to say, yes, they're performing and no, they're not. And if we have a carve-out behind that, we have a performance. I
Right,
know you're not gonna wanna do
and
that,
so
but
that will help us save money, but will it get us better landscape?
But so here's the caveat to that. You can do that, but we still have a prompt payment act. You still have to pay for services rendered. So what ends up happening is we have to go, okay, they have fallen behind on, let's just say weeds, right? Let's just use weeds. What percentage of their contract is weed based? That's what we can withhold. You can't
Right. No,
arbitrarily
it would not
do
be the whole thing.
things like that. And
No.
so it becomes very difficult to try and carve out percentages and stuff.
well,
So just throwing that out there.
it's,
Right, so I guess the question,
over 5 years, it's $1.3 million extra to choose anybody but Cervello. And God forbid we choose somebody other than Cervello when the service goes downhill.
Well, remember, it doesn't matter if you do a 5-year contract or a 50-year contract. The
Understand.
district still has.
Sorry for the
30 or 60
background.
day out.
No.
oh, that's true.
Yeah, the
That's
district
true.
will always have a 30 or 60 day out, no matter how many.
So if, okay,
So
All right.
It's a 5-year contract, but we have an out. If
Yes.
service
if
really is.
non-performance.
Well, it's a 3-year contract with 2 adders.
Oh.
But it doesn't
Move
matter.
to
We
approve,
have an out.
Okay, I'll take the motion.
move to approve Cervelo's bid.
Seconded.
Wait a minute, which one?
Without the,
With ROW or without?
without our,
Second.
so I've got a motion and a second to approve Cervello's bid without the right of way. All in favor?
Aye.
You gotta grit your teeth sometimes, don't you?
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. I guess we can bring the folks back.
That'll make you feel better. I've been feeding them to Angel all night here. She needs another one. I don't know what it's doing for her blood pressure, but she hasn't exploded yet.
Don't mess with that blood pressure. She's got to stick around. All right.
Okay, who are you gonna call in?
All right, I'm just gonna go get somebody, let somebody
You
do
gonna
some
go?
business. and I'll be back.
All right. We are going to take a 5-minute recess while we speak to the vendors.
After all that, I think it's the 10-minute. I don't know that we made the right move, but had to do something. I mean, what are you gonna do, right? You gotta do something.
Oh, I got it every. All right, we'll bring the meeting back to order. We're bringing the meeting back to order now. I want to thank everybody for their hard work. These are very, very difficult times for all of us, funding wise and cost wise. So I don't know if you announced already, but
I did not.
okay. The board has taken action. We have selected to continue on with Yellow. And I appreciate both Yellowstone and Judy for his hard work and your consideration. And for our state cloud representative, if you'd like to stop by and keep an eye on things for us.
More than happy. I have to. I got kids at the school right there.
We'd love to see you. But at this time, yes, we will be moving forward with that. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
For
Thank you
having
guys.
us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
You're stuck with me now.
Okay.
She takes back everything she just said.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, next item on our agenda is our budget. We have for consideration our 2023 budget, which our district manager has provided to us.
While y'all are doing that, let me go through and adjust all the landscape numbers,
Okay.
because really, I think everything else was pretty much a good consensus other than that section, right?
So we can we take audience comments before we, while you're doing that?
It's
Is
up
that-
to you.
is that
If you
okay?
decide to open anything up, because this isn't the public hearing, but if you decide to do that, you have to let everyone speak.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I just thought we could use the time for audience comments while you're doing that.
Okay,
Or this is, or it's not part of
I
the
have a
open
question
meeting.
while plugging in the numbers. We had a lot of optional services as part of that proposal.
right.
She needs to plug in numbers. I guess we're gonna just have her plug in the numbers for all the services we're taking now, extracting the optional services from the bids. You know, there's mulch, there's flowers.
No,
all
I'm,
those
I'm
are-
plugging in what Cervello proposed, their exact numbers.
Yeah, I know,
That's
but
all I'm doing.
some of it was optional.
Well,
But
that's optional.
we'll go ahead and have those numbers plugged in
Right,
and whether.
take them out if we need to.
Right,
Yeah.
whether Cervello does them or not is up. to-
That's
But at least we'll have the money set
Right.
aside if we choose.
still in the line items that are existing now
Yeah, you
based on the
still-
contract. we
You still
just did.
need those optional services,
Okay.
whether you choose to go to
Sure.
Cervello or bid it out.
Got it.
Okay. So, quickly, we do have some other budget stuff before she comes back that I wanted to discuss. Anybody in the audience here have any comments on the budget?
I would just.
If you'll stand up and give your name for the records.
Okay.
We'll get you on.
I'm Mike Bear.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. This is a community, correct? And I think a lot of us do a lot of walking in the community. And as we walk down the sidewalk, Sabella can't do everything. And I think we can help them out. If I see a weed growing in the crack, I can pull it. If I'm walking by a mulch bed and I see weeds, I pull them. Whatever we can do to help these guys out so the whole community as a whole looks better. Whatever we can do to help, I think we should do it.
Thanks, Michael.
By the way, I would.
It's a lovely thing to say, and I think just as probably even more effective is when you see something that needs attention, send an email to cbbmaintenance@infomart.com so that they can be in
He's
touch
good.
with Cervello
Okay, you're right. Put that in.
right? So if residents would do that, I think that'd be, I mean, it's lovely if you do that. It's not really your job, but.
No, it isn't,
we could
but-
really-
I'm a leader too.
I am too. So, mulch is kicked out of place, keep it back in place, all that kind of stuff. But more important is making sure Cervello hears
Okay.
What we need.
about what needs to be done. Bunch of weeds in beds or grass that's brown and crispy or whatever it happens to be. Just having that email in your
Yes.
phone as a contact and calling it up and sending an email so that.
Right while you're walking.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Maybe put something in the Harmony magazine to that effect.
Yes, because I
So
do
that
that first one.
residents-
Michael, will you follow up with me about that? Because I have somebody who's now writing articles. Deborah, will you follow up with me
I'll
about?
turn it
I have
over
somebody
to
writing
my-
articles. It's just that I'm taking notes for this. You can just remind me after the meeting, I will get in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Please come up
Your
and
name, yeah.
name and your address.
I'm Richard Conway. I live in the Lakes of Harmony in South Lake. I've been there 4 years. I'm also president of the garden committee. That's why you've seen me here before. It pains me to say this, but I agree with Mr. Berube with what he put in the last Harmony magazine. I will give you a concrete example. Our HOA took my HOA fees from $250 to $475 in 4 years. I am retired. I'm a registered nurse. After working ICU, CCU, thank God I got out before this whole COVID thing. My wife and I looked at the numbers and said, can we afford to move to Harmony? 4 years ago, we could. I urge you greatly to consider every move you make, that you have an entire 2 communities now, and you're soon to have a third with North Lakes that are living on a fixed income. I thank you for considering the people in Harmony, Maine, who are working 2 jobs trying to afford it. But you've also got citizens like myself who sat down with, at the time, Cal Atlantic's money and what they charge for the golf club and what they charge for HOA fees and what they charge for the HOA clubhouse fees. They've all gone up,
I'm sorry for that. We're trying to keep it as controlled.
and that I thank you.
And
Okay.
for it's one of the big reasons we went with Cervello.
Yeah, and I applaud that. Give them another chance. Certainly watch them like a hawk. That's it. Thank you so much.
How about you being a hawk? You're retired, you got plenty of time, right?
That's- Any other comments here or on Zoom?
Not budget related, just comments in general. Okay. Wait,
Is it an agenda item or?
no,
Because
it's
we
not.
had our-
It's a general. I can wait, I just want.
All right. The other thing I wanted to bring forward, and I'll mention it here, we can figure out where it goes in the budget discussion. The budget was very difficult to deal with because of the current structure of it. The bulk of the structure is fine, but we have no mechanism right now to take large projects, which really should be deducted from our reserve account, and itemize it out, like our pool resurfacing, the footbridges, the big ticket one-time items. And in any other budgeting process, you would be able to, you keep your O&M budget for your ongoing day-to-day things that you're doing. And these big reserve projects, which are basically renewal and replacement, big ticket items that are one time, maybe once every 5, 10, maybe even 20 years, would come out of that reserve fund. We worked with Infomark and accounting. They made a suggestion of how to do that so that we will see that a lot clearer in the future. And that would be to actually, we would keep the line item, just make it one reserve line item for money to transfer from our annual budget over to the reserve account. But then instead of taking these big items out of our normal budget and trying to hammer them into some line item, we actually take them directly from a reserve account. If the board is amenable to that, we can get that restructured and start making that happen so that when we look at our budget and we have like a pool resurfacing, instead of R&M pools that make it look like next year you're gonna need this huge amount of money, we'll know that what our regular annual cost of working with our pools is instead of this huge bubble in the middle like an egg in the snake.
It also makes it just look a lot cleaner, because right now, if you look, it shows reserve, but it's really not a reserve, it's your general fund, but you guys have earmarked it for certain things, which.
Sidewalks and alleys.
Correct, so if you have a general reserve account that you're contributing, your savings account, right? You're contributing every year. It's not earmarked for anything, it's earmarked for what you need to use it for.
Right.
And you just transfer it in and out.
Right, but
It's
how-
very simple and clean.
Okay, and how do we show, if at all, it's not going to be in the budget, how we show what's coming up that we're going to need to spend some of those reserve funds on? How do we show that?
You're not gonna show it in your
Budget?
the board's gonna determine how you're gonna
Right.
allocate.
I'm just wondering how we keep a easy to look at record of
It'll
that.
be in the financial. There will be a
Yeah.
second section, another section in your financials each month that will show the reserve account and then what projects have been deducted from it. And we can even show. I
Okay,
think
so
we
it'll
can
be in the
show
notes.
The upcoming encumbrances.
Okay.
For instance, the
Alleyways,
we'll go with the alleyways. I was thinking of something else.
the pipes,
Of the estate pipes.
drainage
You know,
pipes.
we have a number and then that will come out of, because that's not something that we're gonna do all the time. That's gonna be one big fix and hopefully that won't happen again
In any other neighborhood.
in any other neighborhood, but we don't know. So that will show up as coming out of that reserve instead of trying to jimmy it in and making our budget, our day-to-day budget look swaps. So if I hear no objection to restructuring it that way.
I don't think we need a vote, do we?
Infomark would like the vote because of the way it's currently structured, to be able to restructure. And then when we talked to them yesterday, they'll be able to have your new layout financials for May.
Okay.
So how do you word that motion?
Well, just one more Well, we can continue discussing after a motion.
Yeah, it's better if we have the motion and then we know what we're discussing.
So the motion is, I
Motion-
move that.
Okay, it's to change our financials and budget to reflect a reserve account. That's it.
I'll second.
Now you want to discuss?
Yes.
Well, let, add one more thing, reserve account that we will fund with the existing reserve monies
To start out, yes.
and a transfer from unassigned balances of $1 million in.
Well, is this new, are you gonna get rid of the unassigned
Yes, we'll get rid of
completely,
all.
put all of it
those.
into,
It'll all go.
But it's
to
more
reserve.
than that, right? I mean,
But you don't take it all.
Well, we'll leave some of it into the unassigned for emergencies or slow collections and things like that to give us all that buffer.
Transfer over to reserve.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
And a second?
Yeah.
Discussion.
So, yeah, my thoughts are just on making sure we have a well-defined scope for all that. I mean, we have our reserve study, which
Mhm.
should have captured everything. Are we going to formally tie it to that reserve study where, okay, well,
You don't tie anything in your budget to the reserve study. What you do is, it essentially is a tool to guide you on how you should fund your different accounts. In this case, it would be a reserve account. But nothing gets tied to that. If it did, it would be unrealistic, right?
yeah.
It's just.
Well, again, I guess I'm more interested in just kind of setting boundaries, like
Of course.
we have, everything that's been touched by that reserve study. What are the limits that this thing could potentially be pulled from to use?
You're not capped. It's a board, so let's just say, for example.
if you
today-
don't put a name on it, it doesn't, right.
Well, even if you did put a name on it, it doesn't matter. So what ends up
Change it.
happening is, if we were doing a pool resurface today, and I said, board, where would you like this to come out of, right? And instead of saying repairs and maintenance pools, you're gonna say our reserve account. So then that's where it's gonna get coded, and then your next financials, once we pay it, it's gonna show reserves, pool resurface, fees, $2. And it's gonna go like that.
Yeah.
So you dictate it.
Right, I mean, on the surface, I agree completely. It makes a lot more sense to kind of have, I hate using the word buffer, but, a better way to account for, like I said, multi-year, 5s or 10s of years type of projects, and trying to shoehorn it into the line by line.
And
I agree.
You never want to fund your operation and maintenance from your savings, right? It's the same as what you do at home. You don't want to fund your budget with your savings, or you're doing something wrong.
We just almost started this time with
Your new
reserve
rule.
contribution, $300,000. It should say reserve study contribution, if that's where you wanted to go, to fund the reserves. Doesn't matter how you name it.
Reserve fund.
So
Yeah.
they recommended we change that line item to transfer to reserves.
Sure.
So this is the money from our O&M budget that
That's
gets
still
transferred.
confusing. That's still confusing.
I put reserve contribution. That's what I put. We can
Reserve
name it
fund
whatever you want.
contribution?
Yeah.
Reserve fund.
Sure.
Okay, so I have a motion, second on the floor. We've had discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Right. We've got that.
Right, and the remainder of the budget.
All right, so I changed all your numbers to reflect the numbers in the Cervelo proposal that you approved. Changed it drastically as far as your assessments and everything. So what it ends up doing, I don't know if everyone, if you look at the budget we were just working off of, if you go to your assessment detail, you were at 50-something% increase for O&M. That brought you down to 28.1. Overall, 12.2.
Cut it in half.
Essentially, and then your number wise, it brought your number, the tax collector number, it brought it to 2,452,225.
But there's other changes that go with that too. The next one goes to 28,737, so there's a savings there.
Yeah,
It just
goes
automatically populates,
Right.
but so what essentially you went from was I can't read that, I marked it out.
We went from $3,087,124 down to $2,452,221. 25.
Okay, so
So it's an increase of
did that,
$500,000.
did that also adjust the summary of assessments?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Okay,
So,
so to make it real for everybody. If I take a lot in C2.
C2,
C2, if I take an average lot, say we'll go the 52 feet for the width. Then that means, I gotta follow it over, sorry guys. That would be an increase of well, let's see. Less than $300 a year.
About $250 on average for the average house. The median house would be about $250
Right.
for the year.
So when you factor that out, it's about $20 a month increase. I think, I hope for everyone that will be manageable.
Yeah,
I mean, you cut it nearly in half.
Yes.
In real numbers, you went from more than $1 million in increase to just under 500,000. You want?
That 300,000 of that is the reserves.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, again, that, I think we can slow it down.
No, I think
$20
cutting
a
down as much as you cut out, which was the intent at today's meeting, I think that's a great starting point for sure.
So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to adopt this as our budget to send to the county. Can we approve all three of these at once?
So you would do, well, approving resolution 22-06 is approving your fiscal year 23 tentative budget and setting your public hearing for your July meeting.
Right, okay, so, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2022-06. Or I'll make the motion. Okay, Carol has moved, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second, motion and second.
Again,
Any
for
discussion?
everyone's benefit, this is just, kind of setting, our line in the sand that's starting the budget, process. We cannot add to it once we've submitted it, but we can, if we
And
find
drop it
something
down.
else.
Correct, so this is our
Worst
high mark.
case, yeah.
It could edge down.
What was the percentage overall?
12.2.
12
Overall, and then 28.1 for just the O&M.
Yeah, so if they paid off their debt
Correct.
service, that's what.
The total increase is $376,011 from the current year budget to the coming year budget.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, you can send out the count. All right, the next item of business is our contractors report.
We have no money, don't ask. It's all gone. I don't know why you hung around. You heard it. You just got it all.
Oh, okay, general maintenance, Teresa, there's a Sycamore South Pine, I believe, in the estate, Southern Pine, fourth tree in,
Uh-huh.
it's gone.
It's gone, it died or somebody took it away.
No, it's just, all the leaves fell off.
Okay,
It's
so-
on its way out.
Yeah. Get with our field staff.
Must be your fault.
Probably is.
And we will do as we did with.
All the others.
I've got on here, I don't know if you want to go over your report, we have the report, any questions on the report, and the information? If not, I'll go through the proposals one by one. Okay, the first one is the consideration of the hurricane authorization form.
This is a form Cervello provides us every year at hurricane time. It means we will get priority for their crews to come out and clean any hurricane debris that might come down. It basically is $110 an hour for Cervello plus their equipment. We also have, as we have in the past, declined this and just used our field staff. So
I'm for continuing with field staff and declining this.
You don't need a motion.
right, I'm just checking to see if there's any other board members that have any input. Hearing none, thank you for the offer, but we will take care of it in-house and call on you if needed if you're available. The second is consideration of the Ashley Park pool proposal that Cervello provided. I'm sorry.
No. Speaking after it's hard. Say that 10 times fast.
I'm trying. They have proposed an upgrade to the Ashley Park pool area to add different plant or upgrade and replace plant materials and upgrade that area. The cost of that would be $12,376.50. I'm going to ask, because we get these proposals frequently, and one of the problems I have, and I apologize, but I cannot envision what this proposal truly includes.
Need a picture.
I need a nice little picture. Jennifer offers it. So if you no, I understand that that may not be in your software packages. But if you could at least just give me maybe an aerial shot of it and say this goes here, and then maybe give us an example.
We can do designs for it. We can create
Oh,
a,
you can do that?
yeah, we can do it before and after, absolutely.
That would be great. That way I would understand
Yeah.
more of what you're offering for the price that you're offering.
Yeah, we can easily do that. I know some of the, like the owl book, that's filling in your current hedge line along the fenced area. But I think a lot of it had to do out front with the pool area. So I can take a shot of that and do it before and after on that. That's not an issue.
If you could do that, that would be great. So if the rest of the board will humor me and just wait until next meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's 1/3 of our miscellaneous.
Yes, that would take a lot. The next item is consideration of the Cervello proposal. There are two option proposals, 6683, I think that's for the St. Augustine, or 6684, which would be a Bahia. This is an area that is in the lakes. It's basically near Atwood, not in where the Pontiac side of Atwood, but on the other side of the Atwood behind the houses. We're not sure what happened. It appears that the developer may not have properly spotted that area. So it's pretty bare and ugly looking.
What's the location again?
So Atwood between East Lake and South Lake. That's that crossover drive between the two projects. There, we got some pictures of it.
That's a non-irrigated area. right?
And it's a non-irrigated area. It's around a stormwater pond. It is property we own. I don't know why it wasn't caught before the projects were turned over from the developer, because we should make sure the developer properly sods it.
And it is that east side,
It's on the pond. It's around the.
right? Well, the road, there's a
The-
pond on the east and the west side.
I'm sorry.
We own both of them.
Yeah, it's
This-
on, that's it.
So it's on the west side of the
It's
road.
on the west side.
Didn't David
That right
get
there.
involved in this last month?
No, that's on the east side. So this is on the opposite side of where David got involved. Okay. And there's been a resident and complained that it just looks horrible over there. But I must say that this was the developed section of a sandpine ridge, just like Waterside is. The problem is the developer did not amend the soil whatsoever.
It's all sand.
They just threw some Bahia sod on it, so it's all sand. If you guys throw Bahia sod right back out there, or St. Augustine, it's gonna die in a heartbeat.
Well, I wouldn't do the hair right now. Madam Chairman. I mean, you have
Whenever
no
you
rain.
throw it
in
out there. it's-
Right, you don't have no rain in the forecast. You typically want to do it, July or August or something
Yeah,
like
but if
that.
you put St. Augustine, you have no irrigation.
But
I spoke with Brett about the St. Augustine. It was done out of consideration for the residents, but Brett and I both agreed it's absolutely useless to put St. Augustine there.
But the problem with Bahia too is what we see in the area between the waterside, stormwater pond and Five Oaks. All that Bahia is dead or dying. Because it has no proper nutrients to sustain growth from that sand. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but man, it looks nasty in a
Well,
lot
it's
of
gonna
those
look like that
areas.
right now. You will have that.
No, even during the very wet seasons.
But let me put my eyes on that area myself. I mean, because the next time we do a fertilization application, we can just go behind it, fertilize that area. But again, you want to do it before you get rain in.
But fertilization, again, my concern is without amending the soil. Fertilization's good for a quick shot, but it's not gonna sustain the growth of that grass,
Well,
right?
even amending the soil there, you don't have consistent irrigation coverage there.
Right.
So even amending the soil there is really not gonna help. You're just gonna, again, just putting the head, it's gonna look good certain times of the year, and then like right now, it's gonna look.
No, you go to
horrible.
you go to Waterside where it used to be, Bahia. It doesn't even look good during the rainy season. So what I would like you to do, and unless the board decides otherwise, is go out and really study those areas and see what we truly need instead of throwing the money out the bag. And see if you can make those areas be able to sustain Bahia. And if it can't, let's look at something else that's more natural in that sand pine soil. Or what do we have to do to bring it up?
We have no irrigation anywhere near there.
No,
None, Pete? No irrigation in those areas at all?
If that's the one beside three,
yes,
whatever.
it's the one that you and Brett worked on behind the residence home, between his home and the pond.
that we
Yes,
passed off.
there is. There's irrigation because it has to water the curb to sidewalk easement part of it.
We don't know that.
Right, for that very tip, but nothing back behind those other homes.
No. Only where there's an easement are you gonna have water.
Right,
Right, you don't have.
so we just don't have any around that pond.
Well, It's.
That's not our irrigation in there
CDD,
anyway.
Right, it's South Lakes.
Yeah, so
Or,
that's the problem.
The roads and the right of ways are all South Lake, they're
or
all.
East Lake, yeah,
owned by
Lakes, yeah,
the HOA, not by us.
yes.
This
So we
is
don't control that irrigation.
1,200 square feet. That's 100 by 120, right? Yeah, 1,200. No, 10 by 120.
12 by 100.
Yeah. 20 by 60. Is there an
And to be-
alternative there?
Well, that's why I'd like to have them look at it and give.
Plant some trees and put some pine needles underneath?
I put notes on it here, so we'll look at it. Yeah, it might be where we suggest, okay, let's put some cypress trees there or something, maybe
Right.
put some pine trees.
Looks
Well, I
like-
don't really want to do any pine trees there, but maybe put some cypress trees there, and then, you do water bags.
Mulch it.
Yeah.
And then
get it
you
started
mulch it
growing.
behind it, yes, something like that.
So if you guys will look at that, because the grass isn't growing in those sandy areas.
And what's gonna happen, we start throwing grass at that, we're gonna throw grass at it, probably better to make the investment in trees and some sort of bedding and be done with it.
To be completely clear, it is the east side, so it's
West side is what you're talking about.
west side, so it is a slide,
It's
so we
between
own,
5 Oaks, it's
And-
not what
okay.
you have highlighted now.
right, that's CDD
It's
lines,
that.
this one here, okay.
Right,
Okay, yeah.
it's right there.
Now, we don't have any of our irrigation on this parcel that we own to the south and west of that, do we? That's a CDD parcel,
That is CDD, that's on 5 Oaks.
yes.
Yes,
Oh, and
we-
the berm, so I don't know.
Right, we have it on the berm and in that area, but we don't have anything coming down, buffering up to Atwood.
Yeah,
No,
getting
yeah.
irrigation from over there to where we're talking would be,
would be major.
Okay.
So let's come up with a unique Florida sensitive landscape.
some sort of plantings.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the Cervello proposal for Buckling Park. This would be restoring it back to its former glory for $12,016.19.
I wonder why we have $2,775 for irrigation.
Not to exceed, what we think is needed there.
That's a lot of spending on irrigation for an
Yeah,
area
well-
that's already irrigated.
Right, but the irrigation, that dollar amount is a not to exceed amount. So what we're saying is, it may not be $2,700 for that, it could be $1,000 for that.
But why isn't there irrigation there now?
Yes.
There should be irrigation now, but once you do demo and everything, you gotta tear up everything as well too. So, and plus, I'm not sure, is it gonna place some shrubs back in the same place and truck back in the same place? Okay, well then irrigation and TV should drop that.
So we're gonna provide a new proposal.
Or we can just,
Take off the
If you wanna do it right
27.75.
now, I mean, I can drop the irrigation and TV because you're basically gonna see if you have to modify any irrigation heads or anything like that. So if the board wishes, I can line across the line, put $500 NTE on that.
So what is that?
That would make about 9,000.
What are you taking the irrigation down to?
500. And
was
obviously,
what?
anything,
500.
yeah,
No,
500.
it was what?
It was 27.75.
So down 2,200.
Yeah.
So it would be below 10,000.
92.41.19 plus 500. 97.41.19 is what I come up with.
So like
97.41.19. That's quick math doing the old school way. Now,
Now,
if I gotta do a new math, take an hour. But anyway,
now this is the little pocket park that's heavily used by the kids. And so we're gonna put ginger plant back and some holly and other plant materials to restore it. It's prior to cut way back.
I could change the plants around. Right now I have some Xanadu's for the shaded areas because it's a very shady park. That will be the front part of the park. I got some variegated ginger to separate the
Can you
plants.
do me a favor
draw a map, picture.
and do
You
the
wanna-
same as I'm sorry, and we'll bring it up next.
It's.
Can we just say moving forward,
quickly.
all proposals, can we just get like
Yeah.
a picture?
some pictures.
Or,
Yeah,
Why two different kinds of St. Augustine?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you tell me the native plants, I can picture them perfectly, but the landscape, I'm not.
There's two different types of St. Augustine listed. One, I don't understand.
One was to take out the jasmine that's in the front,
I looked at it today and the St. Augustine and the jasmine that's there in that front between the paved area and the street is just fine. I mean, it looks really nice. I guess it's been getting a lot of water lately. Like other landscaping.
Yeah, because when we originally walked it with Brett, it did not look all that.
Yeah, it looks really nice right now.
we can take it out.
So take a look at it, adjust, do me a picture.
I see a lot of Seville in there too. I'm just curious about that.
So I'll let you guys look that out.
Yes.
The next proposal is the Cervello irrigation maintenance. It looks like we have a ACC controller that went down.
The one at Sedges, Pocket Park. That one's totally shot. It went out. The control board, the control panel, you can't even see
It just got hit by lightning or
It-
something?
Power surge, lightning, it's out.
Just wiped it out.
Yep.
Now, in this, you propose the part itself is gonna be $5,778.
No,
That's for the controller, right?
yeah, that's the controller.
Right,
And 3 hours.
That's the part, right?
That's not Sedges. That's not Sedges. Sedges
this
is
is
East Lake.
down
Clock,
here.
it says.
East Lake
I'm
Clock,
sorry.
yes.
So that's East Lake Clock.
It's a-
Again, I don't know what I'm doing, but when I tried to look for a comparable part, and I'm pretty sure it was the same thing you're specking out here. It was about $2,600 on Amazon.
Yep.
Would it be better for us to buy the parts and avoid the sales tax and everything and have you guys install
You can do that, but are you gonna get the warranty that you're gonna get that we're giving to you as well? I mean, a lot of our clocks go well over a year with warranty on them. And with some of our vendors, they've been very generous, even when it's not in their control, say such things as lightning strike to say, okay, Scott, we're just gonna go ahead and give your clock this time. You know, that's, so again, you can buy it off Amazon, but.
it? Right, but
again,
it's
I mean,
over twice as much. It's not right.
It-
Right.
East Lakes here has a 2-wire system, so you have to buy a 2-wire clock.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking at. Steve, do you have something?
I'm sorting through them, yeah. The markup on all of these proposals, and I brought this up 6 months ago, is pretty strong, very strong. You're
Right.
correct.
And I see the reason for smaller parts that you have to go out and buy, and maybe they need a significant markup, but something like this, you know, that's over twice as much plus. That's a markup that really hurts.
Right, and well, you know, honestly, Teresa, let me look at it, get involved. I was not part of that proposal. I know Pete does not typically put together the irrigation proposals. That comes from the irrigation manager himself. So you will have the parts that's listed, and then you have the labor with it. Sometimes on certain parts, we include labor with
Right.
parts. So if you see.
But this
over-
has labor extra.
Okay.
For another.
I don't know what the labor on
For
that.
the-
3 hours of labor, 195. I'm not worried about the labor so much as that markup on the part.
So you gotta reprogram all the decoders, so that's separate from the clock, so the clock labor would be included in that price then.
Okay.
The labor is for something else, because you gotta reprogram all the
Oh.
decoders with it.
Okay, because this is 3 hours of labor to
Yeah.
install.
That's why I
Well,
was
that's-
asking him, does it include something else? Typically, we include our labor with the clock installation, but if he's gotta go back and program all the decoders, then you would have additional labor with that.
Yeah, and it says labor, not installation for the 3 hours. So that's what it's saying.
Oh, okay. I thought it said 3 hours of labor to install.
It says 3 hours of labor.
That's the way I read it too.
Makes sense, but in the hearing, you could explain that way, that I guess the labor is built into that.
Well,
mark we
if
have on
you
the part.
will look at that, now I don't want to hold this up because evidently something's not getting water. Is that right?
Can we manually water that until
I was
the
gonna ask, you turn on manual?
valves?
I know where one is, I would have to locate the other one. There should be at least 3.
Well, they should be right in the air, so. we
Yeah.
can locate it.
So you
Back
guys
here.
can do that and keep it watered.
Yes, and I'll give it the irrigation manager and send that back over to the Brad or whoever as soon as possible.
Okay.
You guys can approve it.
And there's one other thing that I'd like to bring forward from old business while Cervello's here. And that's the Blazing Star Landscape proposal. We approved that last meeting, and I voted in favor of it based on the fact that it was conveyed that it looked really bad and the kids had really trampled it down and everything. I left here the next day and looked at that Blazing Star Park. And I don't know what you guys did, but you were miracle workers because it's beautiful.
Irrigation.
I don't.
Without that proposal?
Without,
Yeah, you approved that, you put it on hold to bring it back.
right, because the park looks really, really nice and I can't
Look what you
see.
did. Cut your own throat.
Did you not?
Now, there was.
I need to go look at it.
yeah.
I think we did put it on hold, but what we did was, I know we got the irrigation up and going there, and then you also had a fertilization team out here as well since that last meeting, so it's
Well,
probably a
this was
combination.
2 days after the meeting, so I don't know,
God does
what
create
magic-
miracles.
But I was there, the Carbis head was looking good, and so tall, blocking the view of the down from a lot of. It looked, I couldn't imagine where all those plants were gonna go. I mean, there just isn't spots for them.
Right.
So at
That's
this
the picture,
point
you
in
know.
time, and did you have a chance to go down there?
Well, I was just saying, I mean, that kind of bolsters, you know, if possible, giving us a picture, giving us a much, you know, makes us feel a lot better about, you know, going through these and feel
Yeah.
confident.
Because when this came up, we were all going, whoa, where did this come from? We don't even know what it's about. Why is it coming here?
It came from Brett.
It was on one of the site audits.
Okay, so it's looking gorgeous. Thank you for doing that for nothing, making it look gorgeous. And at this point, I would move that we withdraw the approval for Blazing Star landscape proposal that was approved in the last meeting.
Seconded.
I have a motion and second to withdraw. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
You know, maybe something could happen to the Buck Lane Park, like that.
Let me wave my wand away.
Or, yeah, maybe a group of us crazy volunteers, like it's suggested, could just get out there like fairies during the night.
Like in Frozen.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have the approval of the April 28th, 2022 minutes.
We did receive corrections and revisions from Supervisor Castle, so those have been made. So if anyone else has any revisions, I'm happy to take them.
I was actually going to ask that please be tabled. So the next meeting, I did not get those before they were posted. There are a lot of errors in them that I've noticed, and I have not been able to do my usual in-depth review, listening to the tape and going over it. In the few things I was able to, I found a mistake on the second. It was seconded by Supervisor Leeds instead of Supervisor Brody. I apologize, I'm a fanatic for correct minutes, especially since we're doing them verbatim. So if the board would agree to table that to the next meeting.
Just
Yes, so this one,
of just the minutes.
just the minutes. Okay, sorry, Rudy.
Yes.
I have a motion from Supervisor Castle to table the minutes to next meeting. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, hearing none, passes unanimously. The consent agenda now includes the financial statements for April of 2022 and the approval of the 265 invoices and check registry. I do have one comment on that. Tim, are you with us?
Which part?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the invoices. We have your invoice for your flat fee to approve. Not just to ratify, but to actually approve. But we don't have any breakdown, and you were going to get us that.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I thought you were done.
This time I'm gonna let it go through, but next time we really do need, it doesn't have to be a reply, but it really needs to be just a general summary of what you did over that month. So I'll put you on notice. Please do that, or we're gonna end up holding those.
Yes, ma'am. May I comment briefly?
Certainly.
Would it be okay, because I cannot do that with my billing software, would it be okay if we just include a attachment in our general counsel report?
I appreciate it coming because I think it needs to go with the bill. You don't have to use your billing software, but just add a second page to the bill. So if you-
Okay, no problem.
That would be wonderful. And the other just comment, we need a description of the credit card purchases, like we previously got. So instead of just giving us, you know, this charge to Amazon, this charge, just, we need to know what actually was purchased.
Why did it stop?
I don't know, it just didn't show up in this.
I think because we.
Oh, because you went back to a bank card and you have your bank, it's, okay, I know why, but.
So
I'll
you
get
will
those
correct
to-
that?
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the financial statements for April 2022 and, yes, number 265. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition. Motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is staff reports. District engineer, sir, you're up. Sorry, we're short on time.
Brief. Garden Road, last board meeting, you guys postponed re-advertising for bids. Do you want to continue to postpone it for a while?
I don't think so.
Garden Road, postponed.
Okay. Same with RV, boat and storage. You want to pause on any further work until you decide where this may be going or staying put?
Yes.
Okay. These are dropping quickly. This is good. Neighborhood C1, C2, the bids will be due on June 23rd. I will be bringing them to you to the June board. And we'll see what the real costs are for the neighborhood resurfacing. And again, at that point, you can, like you did the landscape, re-advertise it later or accept the low bids and move forward. So, but they'll be ready for presentation on your June meeting.
And I do have a question about that. So at that time, as far as like, we already advertised a complete scope of what all work need to be done. So any reconsideration of that would, again, that would have to be throw out and resubmit. And so
Correct.
start over. Okay.
Were there two items that were possible add-ons? that
There was
we
one
accepted?
for the drainage system and one for the ribbon curbs. So if you'd like not to do those bid alternates, you don't have to
Okay,
re-advertise.
okay.
So.
I'm sorry, just, I need a summary, what did you just do?
The bids will come on June 23rd. We will at least present the numbers as they came in, but then we have to do our backgrounds, recommendations, references, and give you a formal bid award recommendation during your July meeting. But at least on the June meeting, I can say 3 firms submitted, here's the cost range. We can't vote on it yet, but at least you have an idea. If it came in super high, what we expected. And then you have the bid alternates in there to decide as a board to make that part of the project or withdraw them for cost saving purposes. The estates. I'm ready for the board's direction to have Tim write a letter to Millennium Holding Group. I reached out 3 times to Jamie Rodriguez. He promised he would do the cleanup. I was out there yesterday. It has not been done yet. I can keep sending emails, but I think it may carry more weight. With your permission, Tim can do a simple little letter to the contractor saying, please do X, Y, and Z.
Did they fix the silk fence?
They haven't done anything.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Letter to who?
Letter to.
Millennia Holding Group.
Yeah, they're building 2 houses out there and going to make our drainage issues even worse.
Tim to draft a letter.
And I usually give Jim the photographs, or Tim the photographs and the bullet points, and he puts in the letter. I did not push too hard on Regetta Homes because of his loss last month, but I will start pushing him this week to get his stuff equally Be based upon private property and CBD property with wash offs and erosion. I got all the remaining, I received all the remaining deliverables from Atlantic Pipe Services a couple days ago. There is one area missing. I talked to the representative. He went out today and we'll get that rectified. Once I go through that report, I will then be able to present how many pipes have to be repaired and give you a ballpark number on repair costs and whatever you decide you want to move forward with it. And to answer your question, Carol, it won't be a detailed set of plans or anything because it's mostly pipe repairs that can be done with the scope of work or one page.
This is
scope
for
of-
the estates.
The estates only. House Bill 53, as you're aware, there's a June 30th deadline that I have to prepare a 20-year stormwater needs analysis and give it to Osceola County. They then have 30 days in which to package theirs, St. Cloud, Kissimmee, and other of the CBDs to give it to the state by July 31st. So I included a proposal for a not to exceed of $6,500 to pull together and submit the 20-year stormwater needs analysis to Osceola County by June 30th.
And just, will the 6,500 not to exceed be as a part of your previous amount that we upped? Or is this in addition?
I thought we were going to track it separately, but you can make it.
They did ask to track it separately.
Right, I want to track it separately, but I mean, do we have in there in your continuing amount now that would encompass, or will this be additional monies that we should set aside?
Probably for additional, I mean, I might be able to take out what I got as a balance, but then if you guys get busy again the next couple months, I may be back in Virginia again. So however you want to proceed.
Okay. All right, so we have a proposal from David Hamstra, our district engineer, for a not to exceed of 6,500 to put together the unfunded mandate report of House Bill 53 that the legislature passed this last year. You're welcome. But it is a necessary and important report for us to keep on top of what is being done to protect our surface water bodies in the state of Florida. So I would entertain a motion to approve that amount.
Sorry, what was it?
Well, this particular program is more geared towards the gross deficiency of maintaining infrastructure. So hopefully out of this will be grants or funding by the government to keep up with their aging infrastructure.
So we might get money back.
It might trickle all the way down this time.
I'm hoping so.
Another unfunded mandate.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the not to exceed $6,500. Do I have a second?
Oh, okay, I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Give
Very
it to you.
fast. Motion passes unanimously.
Everything else I have here can wait
Okay.
to the next meeting because I know you guys have all of the cover. So
Thank you. so much.
thank you.
Oh, I do have one question for you before you go. Last month, you mentioned that you were going to do a stormwater management system inspection before hurricane season. Since hurricane season is on us, has that been done yet?
You'll see me this weekend in the vest and the hats.
Wonderful. Nice to see you. Everyone, look out for.
So don't shoot at me or anything. just-
You're forgetting this is a long weekend?
That's why he's gonna be out.
Yeah.
But it's important to do that in order that we know that the stormwater is gonna flow to the proper places during a hurricane event. If we have a clogged pipe, we need to take care of it before the hurricane season starts. All right. That finishes the district engineer report, district council's report.
Oh, good evening, Madam Chair and supervisors. We've submitted our written report and would be happy to take any questions in the interest of time.
Okay, great. Do the supervisors have any questions of our legal counsel? Okay, The only question I have, so the deeds that are in the agenda package, Tim, are those from your office?
Yes, ma'am. Those are the records we were able to compile. In addition to that, we've been working with your manager who has sent several, but their search is ongoing. In addition to that, also have made contact with the preparers of the deeds and spoke with Stuart Buchanan, an attorney in Winter Park, who was referred to me about the issue in general. But yes, ma'am, those are the ones we tracked down in our records.
Okay, and I noticed there weren't any prior to 2015. The bulk were before 2015. Is there somewhere else, because your firm's been with us for a long time, but I know you may not have come on until later. Is there anywhere else in your records you might find those?
No, I believe that what happened in around that time was a major server / computer update. And so I believe this exhausts, we transitioned from paper records to electronic quite some time ago. And so these are the records that we could track down.
Okay, so we haven't found the box of deeds, right?
No, we would not have kept a box of deeds. No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so we will continue moving forward with that. Any other-
Yeah, we made a lot of good progress this month, and we'll have for you guys a complete list once we get everything compiled, which will show you everything. In talking with Stuart, he said the real focus should be on what the district would have conveyed to, not what the district received as much as what would have been conveyed as far as any sort of, liability concerns. And we only found evidence of that happening one time, a conveyance to the city of Kissimmee, but we're working on that. We're making a lot of good progress, and we hope as soon as we get everything from the manager, we'll cross-check that with the official records, and we should have a nice, tidy, way for you guys to track all of those moving into the future.
Oh, wait, okay, we'll keep on that. Thank you, Tim. Field managers report.
I know Brett's not here, Vincent is here. Are there any questions regarding the field manager's report? I did put Cervello's responses in front of you.
I don't, we're just gonna continue to keep on them to.
Correct.
Any other comments on that field manager's report as far as, I think it's mostly.
No, it's mostly Cervello.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the purchase of a new Polaris. This is in your package. It's being purchased through Polaris's government office. I presume we get it directly from them
Yes.
instead of going through a dealer here in the area.
These are sold only to government and commercial. So you can take it to a local dealer for service, but you have to buy it through Polaris government and commercial. And they figure a discount on that. If you look at it, it's tied to the Sourcewell National Purchasing Contract, about 4%, I think. This is exactly the way we bought the last one.
And am I correct that the electric version that had this capability had a very long lead time?
No, this is the
Doesn't
only
have the
one.
capability.
Well, no, it does. There is a Polaris that's coming out that has a 2,500 pound towing capacity, but unfortunately.
It's electric.
It's electric. And I really want it. I really do not want to add a diesel back to our fleet. I really don't. The problem is that's not going to be available until at least the end of the year.
Well,
And unfortunately, we can't even link through because we are replacing, is that the one that got?
no. This is, oh, wait a minute, this is replacing something that's either damaged or broken.
Or stolen?
Stolen, this is basically going to replace the stolen one because it had the highest towing capacity.
Okay, So for you that may not be aware, we had somebody who was at fault and crashed into one of our utility vehicles. And we had another utility vehicle actually stolen out of the storage shed back by the field services trailer. So we are having to replace both of those. We will get some insurance reimbursement. We don't know exactly what it is right now. Luckily, we had set aside $30,000 in this year's budget, which will pay for this vehicle as well as another one that we've already ordered, but we're waiting for delivery.
And that smaller one's electric, right?
That's
Yes.
hopefully all the rest that we replace will be electric.
Yeah,
The
this-
reason for this diesel vehicle is because it needs to be able to tow a large water tank for the purposes of power washing sidewalks. So you need a vehicle that can tow 2,500 pounds. Otherwise, they're going to be having to go back and forth to empty and refill all the time, right? So.
Yeah, the water weighs about 1,600 pounds. Got the stats on the trailer and the pressure washer, which we also need to replace. And that's another about 400. So we're right on the edge of the 2,000, but we don't want to tax a piece of equipment like that. So that next higher is the 2,500. So what would the board like to do?
Move to approve the purchase of the Polaris XD 2000 full-size diesel at price not to exceed $17,396.15.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, motion passes unanimously. What type of delivery date are we looking at?
They said, if you look at it, it says 240 days. The last time they told us 180 and it showed up in about 60. So, you know, once they get an order, that tends to change
Right.
things.
I hope that does, because we do need it. So, thank you. The next item on the agenda.
Sorry, real quick. So if that does stretch out across many months not being delivered, I mean, I assume once we do this, we will spend the money, it will be paid, and it will just get here when it gets here, or do we have any kind of recourse of it?
We pay for it on delivery. It's a net 30.
Okay.
Okay, so we pay for it on delivery. So if something happens in the interim and the new electric comes out,
Change the
before
order.
we get it, we can change it. Put that in the notes, so,
Knock on wood.
because I would love to have all, I mean, that just the maintenance costs are
Yeah,
so it's
without a
huge
doubt.
savings. Besides the environmental cost. Next item on the agenda is consideration of pressure washing proposals. We have 4 different structures with metal roofs that are molded and in definite need of cleaning. Some of these were cleaned not too long ago, so I was disappointed to see this back before us. We have 3 different bids according to our purchase policy. Extreme H2O at 3,700, possibly less if the lift rental is less. March pressure washing for $11.96, and they provide a 1-year no mold warranty, as well as they will make sure that all the plants are covered so we don't incur any damage. The third is pressure washing total cleaner for $1662.50. I have my preference, but if a board member would like to make a motion. it's
Move to approve for March at 1196.
A motion to approve March of 1196.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Was that your choice?
Yes.
Because of the 1-year warranty.
Yes.
Yeah, and the plans coverage.
Oh, terms, yeah, that's great.
I think they'll all do that, but the 1-year warranty is strong.
Should, yeah. Well, nobody else mentioned it. So
Uh,
this guy promised it.
Make sure we check in 11 months.
That's right.
29 days.
And put it on your calendar to recheck. All right, the next item on the agenda, well, I'm sorry. Vincent,
Yes.
field service manager, is there anything else that you need to be handled that's not listed on the agenda?
Is there a pressure washer proposal? Which is in front of.
No, that was pressure washing.
That was, we just did it.
No, it's a pressure
Or
washer.
the machine.
Our pressure washer
Equipment.
died.
Pressure water trainer.
Huh? Died.
It's not that old, is it?
Talk,
3
Yeah.
years. Give you that one.
oh, it was in the backyard all the time, it died constantly, right?
Yeah, it was all detailed stuff.
Okay.
Water leaks, broken wire, needed light.
$5,499. There's a few, if you look in here, there's 3 different ones. Want to look at that and pass it around and see what you would like to do. It's a whole setup, trailer.
I understand that. The first problem is no heat. If you want to, oh, there's the one.
Now, hasn't the heater been what was a nightmare on the other one?
Say it again.
Wasn't the heating unit?
It's the heating unit that's always a problem, but it's details with it, the little filter, the screen, the wires break, the oil pump, you gotta clean the exhaust. That's really what happens to it, is the exhaust gets full of carbon from the diesel fuel, and it clogs up and won't fire anymore. That's what happens to it. Is that the problem? It won't heat? Won't fire?
Well, actually, this pressure washer is already dripping gas. So we replaced the little vacuum. Yes, actually, it's a little pipe, like a vacuum pipe.
Mhm.
So we replace it, but it's still dripping. So the start switch is not working.
Yeah.
Additional now, the pressure engine is not working.
Is there a reason? Are we requiring the heat mechanism?
Yeah, that's what makes it.
If you want to clean the sidewalks, you need heat. It's done with hot water.
I mean, we do it in Celebration. We have heat versus non-heat
Well,
and.
actually, my experience working the last community, we never used a heater for.
Don't misunderstand. You can clean with cold water, without a doubt. Hot water makes it much more effective and efficient, goes faster.
Of course it does, but I'm saying there's, I don't know if that's a deal breaker.
Well,
Gotta be done more frequently though.
when you look at, but when you look at the cost of adding heat and the maintenance of adding heat,
Right.
you don't gain that much by having the heat. It's a little bit of a gain. But you're going from $59.99 for a cold one
Almost 10,000.
to $9,400. By the way, this $9,400 one, this is virtually the same one we have now. Well,
Now, have we tried to repair the one we have, or are we still waiting to see if it can be repaired?
I'm waiting for the seal from Angel Press. This is working in the pressure washer company, but he have people that he can repair the pressure washer, but I'm still waiting because the family of him passed away.
Okay, so
Yeah. so
Here-
I'm just waiting.
Here's the
does
problem.
anybody know of a pressure washer
they're on them.
repair?
They're
No,
on them.
they're on there.
It was me. The,
Since you're now in a home that's not restricted on what you can do in the garage.
I was never restricted on what I can do in my garage.
well, some files and numbers, don't I?
No, it's not.
But anyway, yeah.
No, it's in my garage. The thing is fixable. It's absolutely positively fixable. I fixed it 1,000 times because it's always broken.
Well, that's the problem, maybe.
But if you buy this one, so pressure washers inherently in commercial service are always broken. These things fail. The heater is a problem on this. Now, I
How
don't know,
often do we use this pressure washer?
you probably could use it every day if he's got manpower. Oh, yeah, it's all the
Okay,
time.
so it's not a situation where we can rent it and have to rent that company.
Not one of these.
Yeah,
Well, it's got an hour meter on it. How many hours?
To get your ROI.
2,500 or something?
I'm not sure, something like that.
Yeah. What, for the commercial use that we have this thing under, I would buy another one of these with the hot water and deal with it. The problem becomes the maintenance. If you don't have somebody to fix it, you have a problem. They're fixable. That thing, you know, you saw it how often it was at my house. I mean, and it's
Was in
usually,
your backyard all.
well, usually because I tested
Nice
it.
thing is I wouldn't see.
It would get tested sometimes, clean the driveway, make sure. It was. So anyway,
What is that?
sidewalk, yeah, whatever. It's like. You gotta make sure it works before you give it back to them, right? So, your other problem here with the 59.99 one is it has less water. Wait a minute, how much water does that hold?
Actually, this one is for capacity of the tank, the water tank is 150.
And the hot water one is 250,
200.
4 gallons a minute, 4,000 PSI. The $6,000 one will have virtually the same performance, slightly less water capability as the $9,400 one. It'll be a little bit slower on cleaning, it might be a little bit less effective, but you'll spend less money.
And on maintenance, presumably. 'cause
Well,
without
Because you
heating,
don't have to do it either.
it's still an engine, it's still a pressure washing. I'm not saying there's gonna be no maintenance, but less compared. to-
90% of the maintenance issues with the hot water pressure washer has to do with the heat. You have an oil burn on it.
I think it's a clincher, so we're gonna, look at this one, is that what you're?
No, the next one,
The six.
$6,000.
Well, comparing the two without heat. I mean, that's,
I would also,
All right, do we have
I see, well, wait a
a
minute, wait a minute.
separate? Do we have a motion?
No, not yet.
well,
I see you going to Lowe's. I'm not sure that Lowe's is the right place to buy this. Northern Tool and Equipment sells the same brand and they have a governmental office that maybe it'll help you with price.
Actually, I made a research to Northern, but I don't see anything like that.
They don't have the Simpson anymore? They did.
Just a
Okay.
small.
All right, let's do this. Let's approve up to $6,000.
so I know there's an option, but
We can check again in other places.
Yes, but basically, we're shut down for power washing until this gets replaced.
so
So-
I'm ready to approve.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve, not to exceed 6,000 for the purchase of a replacement pressure washer.
Second. I have a motion and a second, not to exceed 6,000 for a food pressure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, hearing none, pass it.
I really don't have anything other than, Tim already talked about, the deeds, Infomark sent over, sorry. Also, everybody received the, resume from Mr. Short. Did everybody receive that? I sent it out, okay. You also have 2,146 registered voters, as of April.
Do we have to approve that or something, or that's
Approve
just a
the registered
report?
voters.
Yeah.
No, annually,
They just report
we
to
do
us.
have to provide that information to you, just so you know. And it comes straight from their office, and we have to provide that as informational. You don't need to do anything with it.
Okay, great.
The other thing is, again, want to make sure I sent you all a whole little nice package when it comes to minutes. I sent you the red line, I sent you the company that did it, I sent you how many times they go through it, and if you total up the hours just for your March minutes, it's well over 36 hours.
We should limit our meetings to 2 hours, which is what we originally agreed to with
When you do
Infomark.
that, it does cut it down,
That could work.
as far as minutes,
Done.
paying.
And we won't be paying that extra money to Infomark to go over the 2 hours.
So at this point in time, you also provided us with the water bills and utility bills.
Yep. OUC
I-
and Toho.
I was glad to see our total bill was down, even though it was dry. We got 11,000 versus 16,000 in 2021, 21,000 in 2020, and 2019. So it's
Hopefully.
going in that right direction.
Yeah.
We may, if budgets are still tight again. Irrigation water is a huge ticket item, big ticket item, one of the things we can seriously save on. And we can save a lot of money there if we look into potentially using our pond water instead of the reclaimed water. So I'd still like to put that out there for something for us to look forward to in the future for one of those really unique, innovative ideas to seriously cut down. The question, so as was directed by the board last time, the district manager put out the information about a vacant board seat. We did have one resident that provided a resume. The board members for committee going in on that issue.
Yes, Marco Manager is also interested. Marco Manager is the former CAD board member and has a lot of experience in finance. As well as the CDD, served the board well, so he's interested in only serving until the end of.
Till November.
Please, let me make it easy for you. I've known Mr. Short for a long time. He lives right down the street from him, raising a family. I think he'd be a perfect board member. He's young, he's got kids. Lives in the community, friendly. If you appoint him, I'm out of here. It's that simple.
Or maybe we should do.
Certainly, Mr. Short, would you like to join us?
Sure.
Just pull up a chair and introduce yourself and your address.
Just have a chair up here.
Yes.
You just sat here for 2 or 3 hours of watching this and you still want to come up and do this?
I don't know. Feels like there's lots to learn from this group, that's for sure.
There is. Everybody will be helpful to the extent that we can.
I appreciate that.
Does anybody on the board have any questions of Mr. Short?
Sure. So tell us what you know about how the CBD is different from HOA.
From what I understand, HOA has a lot more to do with houses and standards and how lawns and things like that are kept. CDD has to do with like governing the land that this community is in and making decisions regarding that. So
Right on the money.
I also was curious as to what your suggestions would be for.
a rookie, I must admit. So I feel like I'm playing catch up and been trying to pour through minutes and understand how things are done and learn some of that lingo so that I could be a little bit more qualified. But from what I've seen, I've enjoyed what I've learned tonight and the meeting minutes that I have poured over.
You actually read all those?
I read some of them.
You're very.
That's dedicated.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Very long.
I mean, this agenda was 202 pages long, so it's another question, you've got your own business, you've got young kids, you've got your house. It's not necessarily a big commitment all the time, but the week that we get our agenda packages a week before the meeting or less, and we got it Friday and the meeting's Thursday. And so you have to go through the 302 pages in less than a week.
Yeah. So there's a fair, one of the perks of being self-employed and owning my own business is I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule. And so when this came available, I thought, this might be a good companion to what I do, given that I have that kind of flexibility. And my boss gets to dictate, how I use my time at work. Yeah. So like, in other words, my boss doesn't require a set amount of time be dedicated to the business each week. It's just as needed, and so
His
there's
wife is
flexibility.
blonde, lives in the same house as him. and her
Yeah,
name-
that's my
Her name
boss.
is Ellen, and there's three smaller,
Four boys, yeah.
four smaller ones, all blonde. Those are the bosses.
They're who I'm
But,
accountable
you know,
to.
my point in saying what I said, we've generally only had people of close to
Careful.
advanced age on this board. He stands out as being a family man with young kids with a potentially a different outlook than many of us folks
So
may
that's a
have.
great point. How would you say your outlook's different from what you've read minutes, you've attended a meeting here, I don't know if you've streamed any of the meetings in the past, how would your outlook be different?
How would my outlook be different than what I've seen here tonight or the minutes that I've read? Because this is the first meeting that I've attended in full disclosure. I mean, aside from the budget meeting that happened on Monday night,
Did you attend that?
yeah, on Zoom. Yeah, I thought it'd be worth like getting my
And was
feet
it-
wet a little
was
bit.
it worthwhile?
It was educational. I felt like some of it went over my head, and I thought, well, this is why I need to be here and listening if I want to like potentially participate in this group. That would be the place to start. So, so I've been kind of going through the agenda and just trying to acclimate my mind to understanding that. And in terms of differences, I don't know if I have tremendous differences in view. What I really have enjoyed, we moved here 4 years ago, and we are really surprised. We didn't expect to enjoy it as much as we did. We thought, oh, this is just another community like we've been in many times, and our kids have loved it. We intended to stay a year, maybe two, and we're here 4, and we'll be here another year at least. So our boys have just loved it. We've enjoyed meeting so many people here. And so we just feel really connected to the community. We appreciate the care that is taken to like preserve that culture. And it feels like that's been reflected in the meetings that I've listened to or read through, so.
And not trying to, to tell too much about the future, but I mean, if you were appointed, would you consider, I guess, going through the process of running?
Well, that's with the hope that I can like feel like I'm being a good contributing member to the board. So if I feel like I can get to the point and contribute in a good way, then I would consider running.
Because I think we passed the qualifying period.
No. The qualifying period is
Second week of June.
13th
Yeah.
through the 17th by noon.
So
Okay.
you would have to make that decision.
Pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Once you get involved in it, you'll like it.
No, that was my question. I mean, then
Oh,
with your, you said being here at least another year. I mean, like, again, you don't need to get to your personal long-term plans, but I mean, do you see yourself staying in, or?
In Harmony?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to
You
chat
can't
with
get
my
that.
wife
Sure,
about that. But
Yeah.
we expect to be here for another 1.5 years at the very least. So
well, because the position is 4-year term.
is it? Okay.
Well, if.
The current will be 6 months,
The current.
but
Right.
if you run for the office, it's a 4-year term.
Okay, that's
You're
good
not
to know.
obligated to it, but they give you another reason to hang around for 4 years.
There you go.
You don't want to go anywhere anyway.
Like that much.
Well, our kids are in Harmony community and they will be for a while. So
There you go. And you can't get any closer.
we can't get any closer.
Yeah.
The really important question is, are you registered to vote in Harmony?
I am. Yeah.
Because that would.
That's a call.
I,
That's a, yeah.
by the way, I checked that.
Oh,
When he
thank you.
submitted his resume,
Okay.
because I knew it was gonna come up, so I might as well.
Well, I looked,
Bet you would.
I
Yeah.
couldn't find my voter card, and so I thought, well, I'm gonna submit for a new one, but I figured it was better public record, so.
Yes.
At this time, I would move that we fill the vacancy.
Do we, yeah, there's,
Need a second, and then you guys can discuss it.
okay. I'll second.
Okay. Now you can discuss it.
Do I step outside?
No, you're okay. You're fine. You're not going anywhere. This is gonna go the way you expect. Watch.
Well, I mean, I guess as a matter of formality, I mean, do we need to wait until the seat to, or?
Close of business this meeting, my resignation will be in.
This is, yeah. it is.
So, okay, then can we back up for a second then? I didn't know you were resigning, so you really should accept his resignation
Okay.
first and then appoint, because essentially the
Right,
seat
there's no vacancy.
technically is vacant or open when he resigns, so you would need to accept his resignation first and then appoint.
So,
I hereby resign my position with the Harmony Community Development District effective, well, I guess, right now.
And, yeah, the end of this year.
Today, the 26th.
it is.
So
Now you have an
the
open
is
seat.
Now vacant.
Was there a motion to accept his resignation?
I
missed it.
I did, yeah, I mean, again, not taking away from, Mark, he's definitely served the community well in the past, but I would say based on at least the willingness at this point to continue and sound like a more permanent replacement, I'd be willing to.
So who
Oh.
accepted his
You have to
resignation?
accept it.
Yes.
So he moved to accept it.
No, no,
Oh,
I was, sorry.
I'll move to accept.
All right, Teresa, second.
I'll second.
Or second, okay.
Right.
So I moved, he seconded, all in favor of accepting Mr. Berby's resignation? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All right, now you can move on to the appointment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second already on the floor
Right.
to appoint Kate Short as a replacement for a vacant seat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, that motion.
Now you can go outside and cry.
Um,
Because you don't know what you're getting yourself into, but it's okay.
You were very encouraging. So
It'll be all right.
congratulations. Thank you.
At the next.
You'll
meeting,
enjoy it.
we'll-
Now that I'm not on the board, we can talk. So if you need to know something, let me know.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
No, don't.
Be happy to help.
No.
Thank you.
No.
There's a lot of stuff.
I want to finish this meeting.
Yeah, move to adjourn.
No, we've got
Oh.
one other old business on here, and I have supervisor's request, so that we're going to business, there was a reconsideration of going out for an RFQ for legal counsel.
At the, in between the meeting, Supervisor Castle asked me to place this back on for discussion by the board. That is why it's on here.
So is Mr. Short now on the board?
Yes.
And should be sitting up here?
Oh, okay.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna leave it to Supervisor Castle.
Hold on 1 second.
Yes.
So he was technically going to resign at the end of the meeting. However, Mr. Short was here. He has not taken his oath or anything.
Oh, that's
So
true.
you need to allow, you can sit up there, it's no problem.
All right.
Allow
It's just a
Mr.
chair.
Allow Mr. Berube to finish this meeting. At the end of this meeting, then
Well, he can't vote. So we still have.
you still have a quorum. That's right. And then at the next meeting, we will present Mr. Short with his,
And he'll have to go
Oath.
down to.
correct. He'll have all the forms I'll bring with him and all of that.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, so on the, reconsideration RFQ for District 11.
On quorum, yeah, okay.
Mr. Pauls, as much as I appreciate all you've done, I have felt, and I tried to share this with you, but we had difficulties with cell connections. I thought about what Teresa presented several months ago. I know she's been pretty unhappy with your representation. Just a couple of things more recently, and you know that I have been unhappy about not urging the board more vigorously to use our directors and officers insurance to defend against the suit by Mr. Bouchelet. But more recently, it felt like you were really fighting us on the whole deep thing, and it sort of still kind of feels like that. not feel like we could get the information across to you in a way you would be understood, or you would, were willing to accept the role that we're asking you to do. And then, you know, you waited until 2 days ago to get back to me about the board vacancy position, instead of, you know, getting back to me much earlier, and requesting information of the governor's office. I just feel like we've kind of been dialing it in since your retainer, you know, monthly retainer is flattened. It's been an issue to get you to provide us with information on what you're working on. It just feels uncomfortable, especially that we're often at loggerheads with our chairwoman. And so I just felt like maybe it's time to at least look, maybe not change, but at least look, and if you're not offended.
You might be on mute.
Still muted, but I don't see it. Talking. Tim, you're muted.
I wasn't saying anything. I respected you, Supervisor Castle, since you came on the board. I've been serving as general counsel since 2007 and never had any issues. You know, and so I serve at the pleasure of the board. It's that simple. And if the board's not happy, then that's the board's prerogative.
Thank you, Tim. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to direct our district manager to advertise or go out for RFQs, request for qualifications for legal counsel. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second? I'll second that motion.
So, and this would just be as an RFQ, it wouldn't have any bearing on the continued service we're receiving from Young Qualls. And if we don't take any action, then that would just, you know, continue, but this would give us something to
if
compare
he's willing to
against.
stay at that point, yeah. So what we would do, you explain the process, because I'm not.
So request for qualifications is basically reaching out to any attorneys out there, asking if, I mean, obviously qualified CDD attorneys, but asking if they would like to submit their qualifications for board review for Harmony CDD. Any that submit will be placed into the agenda. They will come back to your next meeting. You will have time to review them. They would obviously attend that meeting to answer any questions that the board may have. And then at that point, you would make a decision whether you would like to move forward with new counsel or retain the counsel you have. Very simple process. That's it.
And it's, you know, it's interesting, maybe it's because of the size of the contract, but the board, the state makes us do an RFP for that every 5 years.
Those are different. These are professional services versus vendor services. So it's
like our
different.
Engineer.
Correct.
It's one of the members of the management team.
And essentially you set the budget for your council and your engineering, even though they do have billable time hourly or however they're doing it, whether it's flat rate or whatever, you essentially set the budget for that. So.
Any other questions? At this time, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
No, Mr. Campbell.
He can't vote.
He turned in his resignation, so you could appoint Mr. Short, and he has not taken his oath yet. So you have 3, which you still have a quorum, so you're good.
All right, the last item on the agenda is supervisor's request. Do I have any from the supervisors in attendance? Anything you'd like to see on next month's agenda?
Dinner.
I do need to bring back the, Harmony West did ask that we discuss a revised provision for the additional Buck Lake. So if you can put that on the agenda.
What's that for biotech reporting?
For, again, the biotech reporting, they want it to be proposed individually and approved before they do anything, so that if there is any critical stuff that they need to do. I'll bring it back next time.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You approved a portion of it, and you didn't approve another portion.
And
So
they
it's the
asked-
portion you didn't approve.
Right.
Bringing it
reported
So-
by biotech.
Right, so we'll talk about that next meeting.
Before we adjourn, I want to formally thank Mr. Ruby for his service to the board over many years. And
Far too many, probably.
I wish you much success in his new location.
Thank you.
Branch.
That's actually have birthdays.
Yeah, a lot more grass to cut.
I was gonna say, have you noted that?
Yeah, believe me, I know, I have 26.5 acres.
I mowed it once. I ran out of gas twice. I thought there was something wrong with the lawnmower when it first ran out of gas. I said, it's never done this before. Then I realized, I've been cutting for about 3 hours. No wonder it ran out of gas. The next purchase was a tractor. 15 minutes.
Well, I think we all owe a great
Thank you, Steve.
thank you to Mr.
You're welcome.
Brody for his
Yes.
years of service.
Been a lot of changes here over the years. Huge. Remember, this place was largely a grass pit,
Well,
cow
it's-
fields.
It's grown up. It's really changed.
There was no schools. Second half of Bear Grass Road wasn't there. School was a trailer. I mean, it's, yeah, when you think way back,
That's a lot.
it's dramatically different.
All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn as there's nothing left on the agenda.
So
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Since we're stamped. Motion is second. All in favor to adjourn? Aye.
8:28 PM. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just about-